Welcome back, everyone. Today's show is brought to you by Prize Picks. And alright, I usually don't like talking about trade rumors before the Los Angeles Lakers get knocked out or before the offseason even starts, but this one is about a player a lot of fans still care about. At least I do. As a longtime Lakers fan, I've always been a supporter of Anthony Davis. And now, according to new reports, he might not be happy in his current situation. After being traded, not just once to the Dallas Mavericks, but then flipped again at the deadline to the Washington Wizards, it sounds like things have gone downhill fast. That second move clearly caught him off guard, and honestly, he doesn't seem impressed at all. He's basically hinting that it's a bad team, and going from losing to contending isn't something you just magically fix overnight. He's even been more blunt than expected, and now it feels like he could already be looking for a way out. According to Chris Haynes, there's a real chance Davis ends up somewhere else before next season even begins. And let's be real, based on everything he said and how messy things look in Washington, why wouldn't he want out? Sure, you could try to sell the idea that pairing him with Trae Young might work, or that the young core could suddenly develop faster than expected, but that feels like wishful thinking more than reality. At best, they're still a couple years away, and that timeline doesn't match where Davis is in his career anymore. He's turning 33, clearly past his peak or at least heading there, even if he's still effective when he actually plays. And that's the real issue, he's barely been on the court. Only 20 games this season out of 82, and last season just 42 games with the Lakers before the trade, 51 total. That's not just bad luck, that's a pattern, and it's getting worse, not better, which is a huge red flag. Still, because of his history with the Lakers and the fact he can still perform at a high level when healthy, you have to at least ask the question, could a reunion actually happen? Could there be real interest from either side, or is this just nostalgia talking? Maybe it's possible, maybe it's not, but it's not completely crazy either. If the Wizards actually decide to move him, you'd expect the Lakers to at least look into it. But let's be honest, they probably wouldn't have the strongest offer. And what even is his value right now? He's not durable, not in his prime, and definitely not someone you can build a franchise around anymore. At 33 with constant injury issues, his market just isn't what it used to be. So if Washington decides he's not part of their rebuild, they might not get much back anyway. And if that happens, should the Lakers seriously consider bringing him back? That's where it gets controversial. Some would say yes because of what he once was, others would say absolutely not because of what he is now. But one thing is clear, they could do it. The rule that prevented a reunion is no longer an issue, especially after his move to Washington. So yes, from a rules standpoint, a trade is possible. It just comes down to whether the Lakers actually want to take that risk again, whether they're willing to give up assets for a player with this many question marks, and whether the Wizards even agree to it. Personally, it feels unlikely unless Davis forces his way out, and if he does, Washington won't have many good options left. And if that situation unfolds, don't be surprised if the Lakers at least make a call, because history like that doesn't just disappear, even if the reality right now looks a lot messier than fans want to admit. 354 in fact, I still think he could be productive, and honestly, I think he'd be a great fit if he could actually stay healthy, with or without LeBron James on the roster, especially next to Luka Doncic and maybe even Austin Reeves going forward. I really do think the fit makes sense, because that's exactly what this team is missing right now. Yes, they have DeAndre Ayton, who has been inconsistent at best, good some nights, invisible on others, and in my opinion, he's clearly not the long-term answer. But Anthony Davis could actually solve multiple problems immediately. The biggest one being rim protection. When healthy, and that's a huge when, there's no argument, he's easily a top 5 defender in the NBA. That's not even that controversial. His ability to protect the rim, switch onto guards, defend multiple positions, and basically guard 1 through 5 is still elite. Then you add in everything he brings offensively, the lob threat, the post moves, the mid-range shot when it's falling, and especially how dangerous he is in a pick and roll with a real playmaker. That's where it gets interesting. Because now you're talking about pairing one of the best pick and roll creators in the league in Luka with one of the best roll men in Davis. On paper, that's scary good. From a pure basketball standpoint, ignoring the trade cost, ignoring the injuries, ignoring the reality, it sounds like a perfect match. But that's the problem. It only works if you ignore all the red flags. Once you actually factor in what it would take to get him, his injury history, his age, and whether the new ownership would even want to take that risk, it starts to fall apart. And let's not forget, Davis might not even want to come back after how things ended. He got traded and blindsided, so why would he trust the organization again? There are way more questions than answers here. They don't even have Austin Reeves under contract, and honestly, they don't even have role players like Jackson Hayes locked in either. So trying to build a trade package out of that situation just doesn't look very appealing, especially for a team like the Washington Wizards. At that point, you're basically throwing together something like Jared Vanderbilt, Jake LaRavia, Dalton Connect, Maxwell Lewis, and maybe a couple of first-round picks, which isn't awful, but let's be honest, it's not exactly a deal that makes other teams jealous either. Another team could easily come in with something better or at least more convincing. Yes, technically, they could still make the salaries work, especially with their projected cap space if LeBron James takes a massive discount or even comes back on a minimum deal just to bring Anthony Davis back and try to force this reunion. They could even clear space by renouncing guys like Rui Hachimura and others. So from a rules and numbers standpoint, it's possible, but realistically, it just doesn't feel likely at all. And then there's the idea people keep bringing up, sign and trading Reeves for Davis. Let's just address it directly. I don't see that happening. The Lakers are not going to panic and go all in on a short-term fix just to chase one last run with LeBron. That's just not how this front office should be thinking anymore. Yes, Davis could help in the short term, and yes, the fit might look good on paper, but blowing up your future for a 1-year or even a 2-year window is just bad business. Maybe if they could get him for a ridiculously cheap price, then sure, it becomes interesting. But if it costs real assets and hurts their long-term plan, it's simply not worth it. Pairing Davis with LeBron and Luka Doncic sounds exciting, but let's be real, that's not the direction they should be prioritizing right now. They might explore it, they might even have internal discussions, but they are not going all in for it. They're not trading every pick, they're not giving up every young player, and they're definitely not moving Reeves in a sign and trade just to make it happen. Not for a player who might not even be able to stay healthy anymore. It's harsh, but that's the reality of the situation.